Well, that didn't take long. President Trump, bucking Attorney General Bill Barr's request to stop tweeting about the DOJ. In fact, the president responded this morning with the tweet, "The president has never asked me to do anything in a criminal case, AG Barr. This doesn't mean that I do not have, as president, the legal right to do so. I do, but as I have so far chosen not to." I'd like to bring an attorney for President Trump, Jenna Ellis, now. Jenna, challenge made, I guess. Challenge, and we saw President Trump reacting immediately. What do you make of all of this?
Well, President Trump, of course, is absolutely right. And, he commented through his press secretary, Stephanie Grisham, yesterday that he wasn't bothered by the comments from AG Barr. And, as a former prosecutor myself, Charles, I mean, this is just something where, of course, whenever there is media attention or any other scrutiny on a high-profile case, of course that makes it a little more difficult for the prosecutors, because prosecutors are not supposed to be interested in the court of public opinion, only the interests of justice. So I think that what Bill Barr said was actually genuine, and the mainstream media is just blowing this up because, of course, they want to make everything sound like there's some sort of palace intrigue and It's so difficult to work for President Trump. It's really not. He is a wonderful president. Everyone loves working for him. It's really not as big of a deal as everyone's making it.
But to your point, though, it is a big deal in the mainstream media. They're going to run away with this. They're already talking about impeachment. I lost track, 3 or 4, maybe impeaching Barr before this because of the change in the request, for the sentencing request. I mean, they've taken this and they're running with it. They're calling it a feud and all kinds of other things. But you say it's just overblown.
Absolutely. I mean, they're going to be the Democrats who cried impeachment, like the boy who cried wolf. I mean, this is just something where nobody is going to believe them, and they shouldn't anymore, because we've seen that the Democrats will weaponize absolutely every limited power that they possibly can weaponize just to come after President Trump and also come after his allies. I mean, we look at what happened with Roger Stone and that ridiculously excessive sentencing recommendation of 7 to 9 years, and now we have McCabe in the news today, who's been, who's completely cleared and isn't going to be charged. I mean, that does raise the question, is there a two-tiered system of justice here?
Yeah, I want to ask you about that. The idea not to prosecute former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. I mean, people know, it's on the record. People know he lied about media leaks, and this seemed like, what would have caused this? And by the way, what does it mean perhaps for Michael Flynn? There's a report out earlier today from the Wall Street Journal that Barr has an outside prosecutor reviewing that case.
Right, and I think that with General Flynn, there are so many interesting questions there. This is a really good idea to have an outside prosecutor and someone who has independence to come in and look at that. I think that was a very wise call of Barr. And listen, Barr is over an agency, and clearly he has the president's full faith and trust, and yet he obviously has people who are working for him that may not have the interests of justice in mind. And we're seeing that very clearly with Roger Stone. Did that happen in the McCabe case? I don't know. We don't know yet. I'm certainly not going to get ahead of that, but I think that those are proper questions to ask ourselves when the record is very clear, and also even the IG's report that he lacked candor, and this is on the record, and he's not getting prosecuted. That just raises the question, what's going on here?
Jenna, quick, I got just 30 seconds talking about what's going on. Perhaps a couple of the jurors went into the Roger Stone case and not being forthright about their opinions about him and President Trump. What could that mean for that entire case?
Yeah, well, in my opinion, and again, as a former prosecutor and a former defense attorney as well, that definitely raises serious ethics questions. The juror, it's my understanding, is bar licensed herself. That could raise some ethics questions for her. You need to be forthcoming, because every juror, of course, has to be forthcoming and make sure that they are the proper person to sit on that case and make sure that they can be fair and unbiased and look at the facts. That clearly didn't happen in this instance. So whether or not that merits a new trial, it sounds like it might, but we're going to have to see in the forthcoming days what happens with that. But the one thing is very clear, Charles, is that the American people deserve to have faith and trust in the legitimacy of law enforcement and our justice system. And all of these things coming out in the news today raise serious questions about that. And I hope that we can put that to rest and get back to the great system that is America.
That's been a lingering issue now for several years, so you're absolutely right. Jenna, always great seeing you.
Great to see you too. Happy Valentine's Day, Charles.
You too. Thanks.